I, 28F, and my husband Mike, 30M, have been in a loving relationship for almost 6 years. We met when I had first joined my job, and because he was more experienced than me, he would help me out immensely. From the very beginning, Mike knew that I didn't come from a good family. I had to fight for what I wanted and do odd jobs here and there to save up money for myself. Both my parents were into drugs and hardly did anything for me. Hence, when I went to college, I moved out, cut them off, and never looked back. They would sometimes try to get in touch with me if they needed any money, and because of that I had changed my number and address several times. When I started working with Mike, he was exceptionally kind and sweet to me. I remember once I had worn a shirt to my office which apparently had 2 small holes that I didn't notice, but Mike noticed them and bought me a new shirt to change into so that our coworkers would not find out. When it rained or snowed, he would pick me up from my place even though my place was more than 1 hour away from his, because he knew I had to walk a lot to get the bus. I would sometimes skip lunch not just because I wanted to save money but also while growing up, I never had enough to eat 3 proper meals a day, so it had become kind of a habit as an adult. However, Mark would always bring me lunch and insist on eating with me to make sure that I was properly fed. Like I said, my husband was sweet to me and it didn't take long for me to fall in love with him. The only thorn in our relationship was his family. For some context, Mike comes from an exceptionally wealthy family. The sort of family where you have multiple cars, a vacation home, and you go for cruise vacations during the summer. He and his sister went to private school and never had to worry about paying anything themselves. In fact, his dad has told him several times as to why he was even doing a job, because the kind of money they have can set him up for life, but Mike insists that he likes his job and wants to live life with a purpose. Anyways, when Mike introduced me to his family, he had told me that they can be cold and unwelcoming, but they would eventually warm up to me. I went to meet them for the first time keeping this in mind. I wore my best dress and heels and made sure to present myself in the most polite and respectful manner possible. His father greeted me politely while his mother didn't even bother shaking my hand. His sister, Kayla, looked at me up and down and smirked as if I looked like a clown. I felt so humiliated, but I thought of what Mike had told me and let it slide. Throughout the evening, I tried my best to engage in conversation and to show genuine interest in their lives and interests. I complimented his mother's cooking and praised his father's choice of decor and his collected art pieces. However, every time I said something good about his art, his mother would scoff and comment something like, "As if someone like you would know anything about art." Now, I did grow up poor, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't interested in art, so her comments seriously hurt me. Mike would squeeze my hand every once in a while, pleading with me to keep my cool. When it came time for dinner, his mother insisted that I should be seated away from Mike since she and Kayla wanted to be near him. I sat next to Phil and he was quite open-minded and polite, so we had a good conversation. Throughout the evening, Kayla and Mill were fawning over Mike, and completely ignoring me. The 3 of them were busy having conversations with each other. At one point, Kayla knowingly started talking about one of Mike's exes whom she was still friends with. She said how the ex is apparently looking the best that she has ever looked and started showing Mike pictures of that girl in bikinis from their recent trip. Mike told his sister to stop, but Kayla laughed at his discomfort and told him that he could always slide into the ex's DMs if he wanted to, because apparently she still has a soft corner for him. I was growing increasingly uncomfortable, and I guess Phil noticed that too, so he asked Kayla to stop talking as well. However, his efforts were met with resistance from Mike's mother, who seemed to take offense at his interference. I was so uncomfortable with their whole family dynamics that when Mike excused himself from the table and asked me to come with him so he could show me his childhood room, I was grateful to escape the awkward situation. I followed Mike out of the dining room and up the stairs to his childhood sanctuary. Later, in his room, Mike apologized to me about his sister. He told me that she had always been this way even when they were growing up, and would always push him to date one of her friends, telling him how he should marry someone only she was comfortable with. I could sense that he was genuinely apologetic, so I let it go and informed him it was best that we left. He agreed. It wasn't until later, as we were saying our goodbyes, that Mike's father pulled me aside. His expression softened, and he admitted that he had been skeptical of me at first, but my sincerity and efforts to connect had won him over. He apologized for his initial coldness and assured me that I was welcome in their home anytime. He told me to not take Mills and Kayla's words to heart and that he was happy Mike had found someone like me. I felt relieved after hearing those words. Ever since then, I knew that it would take a lot of effort for me to impress my Mill and Sil if I ever wanted to be accepted by them. However, the situation never changed. As Mike's and my relationship progressed, his mother and sister would continuously dissuade him from dating me. I remember once for my birthday, Mike and I were supposed to go on a long drive to the beach where we would be having a romantic picnic. I was really excited to spend the day with him. However, in the morning, his sister called him telling him how she needed to see him urgently since something had happened to her. He let me know and I immediately asked him to go and visit her because we really believed her. However, it turns out she had just called him a prank and there was in fact nothing urgent. She insisted on him staying for the day, and when he refused, telling her that it was my birthday and he wanted to spend the day with me, she laughed and told him that it was exactly why she had called him, so he had an excuse to not spend the day with me. Mike was so pissed at her that he stopped talking to her for months after that. His sister would then angrily send me texts calling me various names and telling me that she wanted to kill me because I was coming in between her and her brother. I would of course show these messages to Mike and this would make him more pissed. It was only later that year in Christmas after Mill intervened that Mike agreed to forgive Kayla. However, she never once apologized to me for all the harassment. When Kayla got married young to her then boyfriend Joe, she refused to invite me to her wedding, telling Mike how he could instead come to her event single and meet some of her friends. Mike refused to go without me, so in the end, she had no choice but to include me in the guest list. For her wedding, I wore a long pink floor-length dress that Mike and I had picked out for me since this was a grand event and we were all supposed to dress well. He did tell me how incredibly beautiful I looked, and during my Sills event, several other guests including Phil complimented me as well. Kayla later confronted me about how I had ruined her wedding by upstaging her even though other guests also wore floor-length dresses. She yelled at me and Mike that I had knowingly dressed that way to get all the male attention. Mike tried to pacify her, telling her how that was not our intention, but Kayla refused to listen. She got even nastier to me after that incident. Over the years, Mill and Sil have insulted my appearance, telling me that I look poor, calling me a fat pig when I gained a couple of pounds, making fun of me and my family background in front of their family friends, and overall have never changed their distaste for me no matter how much I have tried to stay polite. Hence, during the 4th year of my relationship with Mike, I stopped trying altogether as their behavior was starting to affect my self-confidence and there were only so many shots I could take about my appearance. I had a long conversation with Mike and put my foot down. I stopped going with Mike for his family dinners or family events and never responded to Sil and Mill's messages anymore. I ignored them just the way they had ignored me over the years, and my mental health significantly improved. Mike understood and supported my decision even though Mill told him that I was being disrespectful for not visiting them anymore and that I was not wifely enough to get married to. However, despite what his family thought, last year, Mike proposed to me. The proposal was a moment of pure joy and love. He had prepared everything for the day and was so nervous when he popped the question. I had no doubt in my mind when I told him yes. Later, when he told his family about it, his father congratulated us while his mother simply told him that she hoped he had given this a lot of thought, otherwise he was going to regret it. Mike asked her to not be rude since she was on speaker, and then she begrudgingly congratulated me also. I guess she finally accepted that she had no choice and that I would be a part of her son's life moving forward. When Kayla found out, she had a much more strong reaction. She apparently told Mike that he needed to get a prenup with me, telling him how poor people like me can suck the money out of anyone. That was not only offensive, but it shocked Meek as well about how low his sister thought about me. He told her firmly that if she didn't like the fact that he was getting married to me, then she was welcome to not attend. Kayla and he fought a bit more, and Kayla even called me a bloodthirsty gold digger. However, 2 days later she sent me a text message apologizing to me for everything, and I thought maybe she and Mill had talked and understood that there was nothing that she could say or do at this point to keep her brother away from me. I did tell Mike that I would be open to signing a prenup before our marriage because I wasn't marrying him for the money. I was marrying him because he was kind and supportive of me, and that is all that I have wanted in my life. I had a good job and I was happy with what I had, so I didn't need anything more from him. Mike assured me that he knew my heart and he was never going to ask me to sign a prenup. As the wedding was approaching, I wanted to look my best, so I started to work out rigorously. I would sometimes post after gym selfies on my social media, and they were perfectly appropriate pictures. I never posted any racy pictures. However, one weekend Mike came back home after his family dinner and told me how Kayla and his mom had told him that I must be cheating on him since I was knowingly posting all these pictures to get attention from other men. He went on to say how he stood up for me and told them that he didn't mind the pictures, but Kayla told him that this is how women start to cheat on their parents, which then made him think. He asked me up front if I was cheating on him, and I was taken aback by his question. I firmly told him no, and how I was even offended that he would ask me such a question. He started to apologize to me and told me how his sister and mother got into his head and he never would have questioned me otherwise. To give some context, my account is private and I have more female followers in my account than male, so to this day, I have no idea why would Mill and Kayla even say something like that to Mike. During the wedding, Mill and Kayla did everything that they could to cause even more issues. Kayla kept saying how she wanted to be a bridesmaid, but I refused point blank. So then Mill called me and chastised me for not including Kayla and how bad it would look to the family. I pointed out to her that Kayla never included me in her wedding party either, but she told me that Kayla is going to be my Sil, so I have to include her, otherwise she would not be paying for our wedding. This led to a huge fight when I told Mike everything. He talked with Phil, who assured us that it was his money and Mill had no say in our wedding whatsoever. I can only imagine Mill's face and how she must have felt when she would have learned that her attempt to manipulate our wedding plans had failed. Our wedding happened after this without any more incidents or interference by Sil and Mill. Mike and I are still going strong and I thought everything was good between us. However, something has happened recently that has made me question everything. I never thought I would find myself in this situation. It all started when I found out 3 months ago that I was pregnant with twins. Mike was as pleasantly surprised as me. We were both filled with excitement and happiness. We had been trying for a baby ever since we got married, and the news of not just one, but 2 little ones on the way felt like a dream come true. Mike insisted on having a family get-together where he would announce my pregnancy even though I wanted something low-key. I understood his excitement of becoming a father, so I agreed. When Mike and I announced I was pregnant during the party, everyone immediately came over to hug us and congratulate us. However, Sil and Mill looked pissed and stared daggers at me. For context, Kayla got married before us, so she has been trying to get pregnant for a long time. However, I have heard from Mike that she is infertile and basically barren. She and her husband Joe have tried everything but to no success. Mike, Joe, and Phil have tried to convince Sil to adopt if she wants children so much, but Kayla refuses to listen. She says she doesn't want to raise a kid from the streets. So I guess she wasn't happy when she found out that I had gotten pregnant. I was aware of Sil's personal issue, and it was also one of the reasons why I didn't want to make the announcement in front of everyone, because regardless of my equation with her, I did sympathize as a woman for her condition. When Mike's relatives started to ask about the baby shower and if we knew the baby's gender and such, Kayla burst out crying in front of everyone. She rushed into the washroom and locked herself there. As you can imagine, everyone's mood immediately soured. Mike and Mill begged her to open the door, but Kayla refused. After 30 minutes of them begging, Kayla came out with red puffy eyes. She looked at me directly and told me that I should have talked to her first before making the announcement, since she couldn't have a child of her own. I tried explaining to her that I never intended to make her feel bad, but she ignored me and walked out of the party with Joe. Mill later chastised me about how selfish I am and how I always make everything about me without caring about other people's feelings. After the party, Mike did apologize to me and assured me that he would talk to Mill and Kayla and make sure that they would know that this was all his idea, and he never thought that our announcement would hurt his sister so much. I still felt bad about Kayla, but my husband assured me that it wasn't my fault at all. The next weekend, when he went to his parents' place for dinner, I stayed behind as usual since I wanted nothing to do with his family conversations. I have no idea what they talked about, but Mike came back home telling me how he had ended up apologizing to Kayla since she was really hurt about everything. He recounted how Kayla had shared the emotional toll of her struggles, detailing the countless medical tests and sleepless nights spent in tears for years. As he spoke, I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. Despite the tensions between us, Kayla was still family, and the thought of her suffering weighed heavily on my conscience. I realized that beneath the facade of resentment and animosity, there was a woman who was hurting and in need of compassion. Mike told me how I should reach out to her, and I agreed. I messaged Kayla and apologized to her for not giving her a heads up about my pregnancy before the party. I told her that I wanted to resolve things between us before my twins were born so that we could start fresh as a family. To my surprise, Kayla responded with unexpected warmth and understanding. She thanked me for reaching out and acknowledged her own role in the strained relationship between us. She expressed her genuine happiness for my pregnancy and reassured me that she wanted nothing more than to mend our relationship and be supportive during this special time. Kayla offered to throw a baby shower for me when the time came, telling me how she has never had a chance to do it for anyone, so she would love to organize one for me. I graciously agreed. In the months leading up to the baby shower, I noticed that both Kayla and my mother-in-law were unusually kind and sweet to me. They would regularly call me asking about my health and send me flowers with cards that said, "Hope Ma'am Bear is feeling okay," or "Can't wait to see the twins." It was definitely surprising and a bit unsettling because, up until that point, our relationship had been strained, to say the least. Suddenly, both Kayla and my mother-in-law were acting completely out of character, showering me with love. It felt like a sudden shift, and I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that accompanied it. However, I thought maybe they were making an effort to mend things between us before the twins were born. I never imagined there could be anything sinister behind it. Despite my suspicions, I tried to remain optimistic and hoped that maybe we were turning a new leaf as a family. Mike continued to visit his family for dinner every weekend, and everything seemed fine on the surface. On the day of my baby shower, I was surprised to see that Kayla had actually listened to all my suggestions and kept them in mind while organizing the event. The event was everything I had hoped for and more, with friends and family gathered to celebrate the imminent arrival of our twins. Unlike typical baby showers, the men of the family were invited to the event also. Phil had brought multiple gifts for the twins. We were all having a lot of fun and playing baby shower games. Throughout the afternoon, Kayla was polite while engaging with the guests and ensuring that everything ran smoothly. During the middle of one of our games, I had to excuse myself to go to the washroom. After I finished my deed, I was just coming out of the washroom when I heard my husband and Mill furiously arguing in the hallway in hushed tones. Curiosity piqued, I paused for a moment, straining to hear their words. They didn't know I was listening. At first, I thought it was just innocent chatter, maybe about baby names or nursery decor. But as I listened closer, my heart sank. Mill was asking my husband if he had a conversation with me yet regarding their plan with the twins. Mike told her to lower her voice since someone could hear them, but Mill told him that the time was coming near and he needed to man up and talk to me. Mike told her that he was working on it and that it wasn't an easy conversation to have. Mill then told him that he needed to have this discussion before the twins were born, otherwise they wouldn't be able to give one of the twins to Kayla on time for her 27th birthday. She told him how he had already agreed to Sil's demands and had no way out since she had been looking forward to getting a child for months now. My eyes widened in shock as I processed these snippets of conversation I had overheard. My heart raced with a mix of disbelief and growing dread as the gravity of their discussion sank in. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. They were discussing giving one of our twins away to my sister-in-law as a birthday gift. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a punch to the gut. I stood there, frozen, as they continued to talk about their plans as if it were the most normal thing in the world. My mind raced with a million thoughts and emotions. Anger, hurt, sadness. But most of all, betrayal. I had thought my husband, Mill, and Sil were happy about our pregnancy, about our twins. But now I have realized that their happiness wasn't because of our growing family. It was because of their twisted plan to give away one of our babies. At that moment, I felt like I didn't even know my husband anymore. How could he betray me like this? How could he even consider giving away our child? Our babies were not gifts to be given away. They were our children, our flesh and blood. I waited patiently for them to finish their conversation as I didn't want to be caught, and then I slowly walked out of the washroom. I was shaking in fear and anger, however I held it together as best as I could in front of others. Since the baby shower, I have been racking my head to come up with a plan so I can escape this situation as fast as I can. I can't endanger my twins in the future. This family is crazy and I can't even trust my husband anymore. I want to scream at him every time I see him, but I am trying to pretend that all is well so I can work on my escape plan. However, because of my pregnancy hormones, I am a bit worried that I will be the asshole for leaving my husband without even asking for an explanation. I don't mind being a single mother, but should I give the father of my children a chance to explain himself before tearing apart the family? Update 1. Thank you everyone for your advice and suggestions. I read through all the comments and I have made up my mind now. I want to assure you that I will never let anyone take away my baby from me. I have reached out to my best friend of many years and I have asked for her help. She is as shocked as me that my husband could plan such a thing with his family. She has agreed to come and help me move my things so that I can live with her while I file for divorce from my husband. Tonight is the last night I will stay in the same house as Mike, and tomorrow I will leave without a note or an explanation because he doesn't deserve one. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update. I wanted to update everyone on what has happened since my last post. As I mentioned before, I made the decision to file for divorce from Mike after overhearing his conversation with his mother about their plan regarding our twins. It was a heartbreaking decision, but I knew it was the right one for me and my babies. With the help of my best friend, I gathered all my belongings and left our house while Mike was at work. It was a difficult and emotional moment when I walked out of the doors, as I never imagined a day would come when I would leave my husband. But I know I have to prioritize the safety and well-being of myself and my unborn children. I have since filed for divorce even though Mike has tried to reach out to me multiple times. I haven't blocked him as I do want to be cordial to him until the divorce is done. Since Mike has no idea that I overheard him with his mother, he has sent me several text messages accusing me of betraying him and how his family was right all along. I haven't sent him a single explanation because I know no matter what I say, he and his family will try to gaslight and manipulate me, so for now they can think whatever they want. The truth will come out during the divorce proceedings. I have blocked Sil and Mill, although I do feel a bit guilty about not answering Phil's calls. I have no idea whether he was involved in this plan or not, so I can't take any chances. I have spent the last few days just crying while my best friend has sat with me and never left my side. She has assured me that I am not a bad mother for leaving such a man and has tried to lessen my guilt. Since I will be a single mother from now on, I plan on going back to work as soon as I can. My best friend who works from home has agreed to babysit my twins when I do join the workforce. However, I have insisted on paying her for her time, as babysitting twins won't be easy. I know this isn't a solid plan and I wish I had reliable parents who could help me out in this situation, but unfortunately, I don't. Also, my best friend will only help me look after the kids until I can get my divorce from Mike, so then with the child support I can hire a proper nanny. I know it won't be easy, but I am determined to create a safe and loving environment for my twins. I am grateful for the support and encouragement I have received from all of you during this challenging time. Update 3. Hello everyone. It's been 6 months since my last update. A lot of things have happened since then. First of all, I have given birth already and now I'm the proud mother of my beautiful twins, Jackson and Vinny. I was so nervous before giving birth, but the moment I held my beautiful twins in my arms for the first time, all of my worries melted away. They are my everything, and I am glad that I took them away from that crazy family. My divorce from Mike was finalized, and despite his pleading, he was not granted custody of the children. He did find out during the proceeding exactly why I had left him, and he was shocked that I had found out about his plan. He tried to apologize, to explain himself, telling me how he was compelled and pressured by his family every day and how he had no choice, but I was further disappointed with his cowardice. It turns out that Phil did know about everything, and although he had tried to dissuade Sil and Mill, no one had listened to him. I am so disgusted by this family that I have felt no remorse since divorcing Mike. I didn't ask for a single penny for alimony, but he has agreed to pay a hefty amount for child support, which will be enough for me to provide the best for my children. Mill and Sil did try to get in touch with me and even showed up during the divorce proceedings screaming and yelling at me for taking away the twins from them. They told me how they could have provided my children with everything and that I was a bad mother for being so selfish. In the end, they had to be restrained by the guards. I am glad that they embarrassed themselves publicly because it helped me get a restraining order against them. Since the divorce, Mike has tried to remain in touch with me, pleading for a chance to talk and reconcile. But I can never trust him again around my children. With the help of my best friend and a supportive network of friends and family, I've been able to navigate the challenges of single parenthood these past few months. Recently, I have made the decision to move out of the city entirely as I want to create a fresh start for myself and my children, far away from the toxicity and manipulation of Mike's family. I know as long as I live in the same city they might try to get in touch with my twins and I don't want that. With full custody of my twins, I have the freedom to build a new life wherever I choose, and I intend to make the most of that opportunity. Moving forward, I am going to be focused on myself and my babies, so there will be no further updates.